The town of Red Hollow wasn't much to look at. A collection of weathered buildings huddled together like frightened animals, surrounded by endless stretches of nothing. The kind of place people passed through on their way to somewhere better, if they had any sense. Eliza had been born here. That probably said everything anyone needed to know about her luck. She stood outside the general store, her breath forming small clouds in the November air, watching her father through the dirty window. Thomas Boone sat slumped in a chair by the stove, his hat in his hands, talking to Mr. Hendricks. Even from outside, Eliza could read the defeat in every line of her father's body. She knew what they were discussing, the same thing they'd been discussing for months. The loan, the deadline, the impossible sum her father could never repay. A gust of wind sent a piece of newspaper tumbling past her feet. Eliza caught it reflexively, ready to throw it away, but something made her look down. Rancher seeks wife, established landowner in Copper Valley Territory, woman of good character and refinement preferred. Inquire Rourke Ranch. Her heart did something strange in her chest. She'd heard of Caleb Rourke. Everyone had. The man owned more land than some eastern states, ran cattle by the thousands, and had a reputation that made grown men step aside when he passed. Rich didn't begin to cover it, and mean, well, that depended on who was telling the story. Some said he was fair, but hard. Others said he was cold as January and twice as unforgiving. Eliza read the advertisement 3 times before she understood what she was looking at. Not opportunity, that would be too simple. This was someone else's escape route. Some refined lady from back east would see this, travel out here, and marry into more money than Eliza would see in 10 lifetimes. She crumpled the paper and shoved it in her coat pocket. Inside the store, her father stood. The conversation was over. Nothing had changed. Eliza. Thomas Boone's voice cracked when he saw her. At 52, he looked 70. 4 years of drought, 2 years of trying to recover, and now this. You shouldn't be standing in the cold. I'm fine, Papa. She fell into step beside him. What did Mr. Hendricks say? Same as always, 3 more days. 3 days until the bank foreclosed. 3 days until they lost the small plot of land that had been in the Boone family for 2 generations. 3 days until they had nothing. They walked in silence toward their tiny house at the edge of town. It wasn't much, 4 rooms, a leaking roof, a stove that barely worked, but it was theirs for 3 more days. I could find work, Eliza said, not for the first time. Doing what? Her father's voice held no anger, just exhaustion. There's no work, Eliza. Not here. Not anywhere close enough to matter. Then somewhere else. Denver, San Francisco. I could... No. Thomas stopped walking. I won't have you going to some city alone. I won't. Papa, I mean it, Eliza. We'll figure something out. But they wouldn't. They both knew it. That night, Eliza sat by the stove with the crumpled advertisement spread on her lap. The fire threw dancing shadows across the words. Woman of good character and refinement preferred. She almost laughed. She had character. Life had beaten that into her whether she wanted it or not. But refinement? She looked at her hands. Rough, calloused, the nails broken from work. Her dress was patched in 3 places. Her shoes had holes she'd stuffed with newspaper. Refined she was not, but desperate? That she had in abundance. The idea that formed in her mind was insane, completely insane. She knew that, but she kept thinking about it anyway, turning it over like a smooth stone, looking for the sharp edges that would cut her. What if she went? Not as some refined lady, not pretending to be something she wasn't, but just showing up, stating her case, offering herself in exchange for enough money to save her father's land. It was humiliating even to think about. And yet, 3 days, that's all they had. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Eliza made her decision. She found her father fixing the fence behind their house. A pointless task now, but he needed to keep his hands busy. Papa, I need to tell you something. He looked up, saw her face, and set down his hammer. What is it? I'm going to fix this, the debt, all of it. Thomas Boone went very still. Eliza, what did you do? Nothing yet, but I'm going to. She pulled out the advertisement. I'm going to Copper Valley, to the Rourke Ranch. Her father read the paper once, then looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Absolutely not. Papa, I said no. I won't have you selling yourself like what? Eliza's voice went hard. Like livestock? Papa, the bank is going to take everything in 2 days. Everything. At least this way you keep the land, you keep the house, you keep something. Not at that cost. It's my choice. She met his eyes. I'm 23 years old enough to make my own decisions. Eliza, her father's voice broke. You don't know this man. He could be anything. I know, but I know what happens if I don't try. We lose everything, and we both know I'll end up married to some farmer's son within a year anyway, just to have a roof over my head. At least this way, it means something. Thomas Boone looked at his daughter, really looked at her. When had she gotten so hard, so determined? He still saw the little girl who used to bring him wildflowers. But that girl was gone, carved away by hunger and worry, and watching him fail. There has to be another way, he said quietly. There isn't. We both know there isn't. The silence stretched between them. If he hurts you, Thomas started, then I'll deal with it, like I deal with everything else. That afternoon, Eliza packed. It didn't take long. She didn't own much. 2 dresses, both worn, a coat with a torn lining, a brush with missing bristles, a photograph of her mother, dead these 10 years. She stood in front of the cracked mirror in her room and tried to see what Caleb Rourke would see. A thin woman with dark hair and darker eyes, sharp cheekbones that came from missing too many meals, skin weathered by wind and sun. Nothing soft about her, nothing refined. He was going to laugh her off his property. But she was going anyway. The stagecoach to Copper Valley left at dawn. Eliza used almost the last of their money for the ticket. Her father didn't try to stop her again. He just held her for a long time at the station, his hands shaking. You come home if it doesn't work, he said. You hear me? You come straight home. I will, Papa. They both knew she was lying. The journey took 2 days. 2 days of bouncing on hard seats, sleeping fitful hours with her head against the window, eating nothing because she couldn't afford the food at the stations. The other passengers gave her curious looks but didn't speak to her. She was clearly poor, clearly alone. Nothing good to be found in conversation there. On the second afternoon, the landscape changed. The flat, dead plains gave way to rolling hills. Brown grass shifted to green. Trees appeared, then became thick. Water ran in the creeks. This was good land. Rich land. The kind of land that made men powerful. The stage stopped in Copper Valley just as the sun was setting. The town was 3 times the size of Red Hollow, with actual streets, actual buildings that looked permanent, a hotel, a bank, a restaurant with glass windows, money. That's what she was seeing, what money could build. You getting out, miss? The driver was looking at her. Yes, sorry. Eliza climbed down with her small bag. The street was busy with evening traffic. People looked prosperous, well-fed, the kind of people who didn't know what it meant to choose between heating and eating. Excuse me, she said to a woman passing by. Can you tell me how to get to Rourke Ranch? The woman's expression shifted immediately. Curiosity, calculation, a slight smirk. You're looking for the Rourke place? Yes, ma'am. Well, the woman looked Eliza up and down, taking in every worn seam and patched hole. You take the north road about 8 miles, can't miss it. Big gate. Thank you. Though I don't know what business you'd have out there, the woman added. Mr. Rourke doesn't usually receive unexpected visitors. The implication was clear, the dismissal in her tone even clearer. Eliza forced a smile. I'll manage. Thank you for your help. 8 miles, on foot, with night coming. She started walking. The north road was well maintained, which made sense. This was Rourke's road. Probably half the commerce in the valley used it. Eliza kept to the side, her bag growing heavier with each mile. Her feet hurt. She was hungry, thirsty, and starting to realize just how insane this plan was. But she kept walking. The sun set. The temperature dropped. Eliza wrapped her coat tighter and tried not to think about what would happen if she didn't make it before full dark. The road was safe enough, probably, but the cold wasn't forgiving. She saw the gate in the last light of dusk. It was massive, iron and wood, with an R worked into the metalwork that must have cost more than her father's entire property. The fence stretched in both directions farther than she could see. Beyond it, A road led through grassland toward distant lights. Eliza stood there for a long moment, staring at those lights. Last chance to turn back. Last chance to be sensible. She pushed open the gate and walked through. The road to the main house took another 20 minutes. With each step, the size of the operation became clearer. Pastures, barns, outbuildings, corrals. This wasn't a ranch, it was an empire. Dozens of people must work here, maybe hundreds. And she was about to walk up to the door and propose marriage to the man who owned it all. The absurdity hit her so hard she almost laughed. The main house sat on a rise, 3 stories of solid construction with light blazing from multiple windows. Expensive, built to last, built to impress. Eliza climbed the steps to the front porch. Her hands were shaking. From cold, she told herself, just from cold. She knocked. Footsteps inside. The door opened. A woman stood there, 50-ish, gray hair pulled back tight, dressed in black. A housekeeper, probably. Her eyes went wide when she saw Eliza. "We're not hiring," she said immediately. "I'm not looking for work. I need to speak with Mr. Rourke." "Mr. Rourke doesn't see people without an appointment. If you need to discuss business, you can come back tomorrow and speak with—" "It's not business. It's personal." The housekeeper's expression went from dismissive to outright hostile. "If you think you can come here making claims, trying to get money—" "I'm here about his advertisement." Eliza pulled out the now battered piece of newspaper. "For a wife." The woman's mouth actually fell open. For a moment she said nothing. Then, "You?" That one word held so much contempt it almost made Eliza step back. "Yes. Me." "Wait here." The door closed. Eliza stood on the porch, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it. Minutes passed. 5. 10. Maybe they were laughing inside. Maybe they were deciding whether to throw her out or just send her away. The door opened again. "Mr. Rourke will see you. For 5 minutes." The housekeeper's tone made it clear she thought this was a mistake. "Wipe your feet. Don't touch anything." Eliza followed her inside. The entry hall was bigger than her entire house. Hardwood floors, rugs that looked like they'd been shipped from somewhere expensive, furniture that was actual furniture, not scraps cobbled together, paintings on the walls, a chandelier overhead. This was a different world. The housekeeper led her down a hallway to a door, knocked once, and opened it without waiting for a response. "The person to see you, sir." She stepped aside. Eliza walked into what was clearly a study. Books lined 2 walls, a massive desk dominated one corner, a fire burned in a stone fireplace. And standing in front of that fire, turning to look at her, was Caleb Rourke. He was tall. That was Eliza's first thought. Tall and broad-shouldered, wearing work clothes that had probably cost more than everything Eliza owned combined. Dark hair starting to gray at the temples. Maybe 40, maybe older. Hard to tell. His face was weathered, hard-angled, with eyes that looked like they'd seen too much and forgiven too little. Those eyes locked onto Eliza, and she felt the weight of his assessment like a physical thing. "Thank you, Mrs. Shaw," he said. His voice was deep, rough. "That'll be all." The housekeeper left, closing the door behind her. Silence. Caleb Rourke didn't move, didn't speak. Just looked at Eliza like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Mr. Rourke," Eliza started, then stopped. Her prepared speech evaporated under that stare. "You're here about the advertisement," he said. Not a question. "Yes, sir." "You came alone?" "Yes, sir." "From where?" "Red Hollow." Something flickered in his eyes. "That's 2 days' travel." "Yes, sir." More silence. He was waiting for her to explain, to justify, to make her case. Eliza lifted her chin. "I know I'm not what you were expecting. I know I'm not refined or educated or any of the things that advertisement asked for. But I'm honest, I'm a hard worker, and I won't make trouble." "Why are you here?" The question was so direct it caught her off guard. My father has debts. The bank is foreclosing. I thought—" She stopped, hating how this sounded, how desperate. "I thought maybe we could make an arrangement." "An arrangement." His tone was flat, unreadable. "Yes, sir. Marriage in exchange for money to pay off the debts." "I see." Caleb Rourke walked to his desk, poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter. He didn't offer her one. And what makes you think I need a wife badly enough to pay off someone else's debts? I don't know if you do, but you placed that advertisement, so you must need something. Perhaps, but I was expecting someone different. I know. You're not what I asked for. No, sir. You're poor. Yes, sir. Desperate. Eliza flinched, but yes, sir. Caleb Rourke drank his whiskey in one swallow, set the glass down, and looked at her again. How much does your father owe? $300. His laugh was short, sharp, not amused. You traveled 2 days to sell yourself for $300. The words hit like a slap. Because that's exactly what she was doing, wasn't it? My father's land is worth more than that, Eliza said quietly. To him, to me. Maybe not to you, but to us, it's everything. Everything. He repeated the word like he was testing it. And what would I get in this arrangement? A wife who resents me? Who's only here because she had no other choice? You'd get honesty, no pretending, no games. I won't lie to you about why I'm here or what I want. Which is? To save my father. Not money for yourself, not comfort, not security. Those things would be nice, Eliza admitted, but that's not why I knocked on your door. Caleb Rourke studied her for a long moment. Then he walked to the window, looked out at the darkness. You know what they say about me in town? He asked. Some things. They say I'm hard, mean, that I've run off 3 housekeepers in 2 years, that my own family barely tolerates me, that I work men until they break and don't lose sleep over it. Eliza said nothing. Are you afraid? He asked. Yes, sir. He turned, surprised. You admit it? I'd be stupid not to be afraid. I don't know you. I don't know what you want or why you placed that advertisement. I don't know if you're mean or fair or something in between. All I know is I'm standing in your house asking you to marry me in exchange for money, which makes me either very brave or very desperate. Which is it? Eliza met his eyes. Both. For the first time, something like interest crossed Caleb Rourke's face. My family expects me to marry well, he said. Someone from a good family, educated, refined. Someone who will bring connections, prestige. They've been pushing women at me for years. Then why advertise? Because I'm tired of their choices. Tired of women who see dollar signs instead of a man. Tired of being managed. He walked back to his desk. But you're not their choice. You're nobody's choice. You're poor, rough-handed, desperate enough to propose to a stranger. Each word was designed to wound. Eliza felt them land. Yes, sir, she said. That's all true. So tell me why I shouldn't send you away right now. This was it, the moment that mattered. Eliza took a breath. Because if you marry one of those refined ladies your family wants, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if she actually wants you or just your money. You'll never know if she stays because she wants to or because leaving would cost too much. But me? She gestured at herself. I'm telling you right now, up front, exactly what I want and why I'm here. No surprises later. No disappointment when the mask comes off. This is it, what you see. Honesty? Yes, sir. Even if that honesty is ugly. Especially then. Caleb Rourke sat down in his chair, leaned back, and looked at her for a long time. Eliza forced herself to stay still, to not fidget, to let him look. Finally, what's your name? Eliza Boone. How old are you, Eliza Boone? 23. Ever been married before? No, sir. In love? The question surprised her. No, sir. Any prospects back in Red Hollow? No, sir. Family besides your father? No, sir. My mother died when I was 13. He nodded slowly. You can read and write? Yes, sir. My mother taught me before she passed. Cook? Well enough. Sew? Yes, sir. Run a household? I've run ours since my mother died. This household has 12 people in it, plus ranch hands who eat here during busy seasons. That's 40, 50 people some weeks. Eliza's stomach dropped. She'd been thinking about cooking for 2, maybe 3, not dozens. I can learn, she said. Can you? He leaned forward. Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? I can learn. I'm not stupid, and I work hard. Prove it. Sir? Stay the night. Tomorrow, work. If Mrs. Shaw thinks you're worth keeping, we'll talk again. If not, I'll pay for your stage ticket home and you can tell your father you tried." It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. "All right," Eliza said. Caleb Rourke stood, walked to the door, opened it. Mrs. Shaw was waiting in the hall, probably listening. "Mrs. Shaw, find Miss Boone a room. She's staying tonight. Tomorrow she works. You decide if she's useful or not." The housekeeper's face went through several expressions before settling on barely concealed disgust. "Yes, sir." "And Mrs. Shaw? Be fair." "Of course, sir." Caleb Rourke looked at Eliza one more time. "Don't make me regret this." "No, sir." He closed the door. Mrs. Shaw turned and walked down the hall without checking if Eliza followed. She did, practically running to keep up. They climbed stairs to the second floor, walked down another hallway. Mrs. Shaw opened a door at the end. "You'll sleep here. There's water in the pitcher. Breakfast is at 5. Don't be late." The room was small, barely more than a closet, with a narrow bed and a washstand. But it was warm and dry and clean. "Thank you," Eliza said. Mrs. Shaw sniffed. "Don't thank me yet. Tomorrow we'll see what you're really made of." She left, closing the door hard. Eliza sat on the bed and realized she was shaking, not from cold now, from shock, from exhaustion, from the sheer impossibility of what had just happened. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. She'd walked into Caleb Rourke's house and proposed marriage, and he hadn't thrown her out. He hadn't said yes either, but he hadn't said no. Tomorrow would tell. Eliza lay back on this bed, still in her clothes, too tired to do more than pull the blanket over herself. Through the small window she could see stars, cold and distant and unimpressed. Just before sleep took her, she thought about her father, about the $300, about the impossible choice she'd made, and she hoped, desperately, foolishly, that she was strong enough for whatever came next. The knock came at 4:30, not 5. Eliza jerked awake, disoriented. For a moment she didn't know where she was. The room was too dark, the bed too soft, the air smelling of beeswax and wood smoke instead of mildew and desperation. Then she remembered. "Up!" Mrs. Shaw's voice came through the door. "Kitchen! Now!" Eliza scrambled out of bed, her feet hitting cold floorboards. She'd slept in her dress, which was now hopelessly wrinkled. Her hair had escaped its pins. She looked like exactly what she was, a desperate woman who'd walked 8 miles in the dark and collapsed into bed. No time to fix it. She splashed water on her face from the pitcher, tried to smooth her hair back, and hurried downstairs. The kitchen was enormous. A cast-iron stove that must have cost a fortune dominated one wall. Copper pots hung from hooks. 2 long tables filled the center of the room, and moving through it all like a general commanding troops was Mrs. Shaw. "You're late," she said without looking up. "You said 5. I said breakfast is at 5. That means the food is ready at 5, which means you should have been here at 4. Mrs. Shaw finally looked at her. "But since you're new, I'll let it pass this once. Wash your hands. That basin there." Eliza washed while Mrs. Shaw rattled off instructions. "Coffee's already made. Biscuits need to come out in 10 minutes. Eggs we do last, scrambled, for 32 people. Bacon's in the cold room, that door there. Bring out 4 slabs. Sausage is already cooking. You ever cook for more than 5 people at once?" "No, ma'am." "Then stay out of my way and do exactly what I tell you." Mrs. Shaw thrust a knife at her. "Start cutting that bread. Slices about this thick. Stack them on that platter." Eliza cut bread while Mrs. Shaw moved through the kitchen with brutal efficiency. 2 other women appeared, ranch hands' wives maybe, and fell into the routine without needing to be told. They gave Eliza curious looks but didn't speak. The biscuits came out golden. Eliza had never seen so many biscuits at once. Mrs. Shaw dumped them into baskets lined with cloth, shoved 1 basket at Eliza. "Dining room, through that door. Set them on the table." Eliza carried the basket through a swinging door into a room with a table that could seat 20. Place settings were already laid out. She put the basket down and hurried back. "Butter. In the cold room. Bring 3 crocks." Eliza fetched butter. "Jam. Same place, 4 jars." Jam retrieved. "Now watch." Mrs. Shaw cracked 2 dozen eggs into an enormous bowl, whisked them with milk and salt, and poured the mixture into 3 massive skillets. "When I cook eggs, I do it fast and I do it once. Can't be reheating eggs or they turn to rubber. So everything else has to be ready first. You understand? Yes, ma'am. Then get the bacon. Move. By the time the clock struck 5, the dining room table was loaded with enough food to feed Red Hollow for a week. Biscuits, bacon, sausage, eggs, fried potatoes, gravy, jam, butter, coffee. The smell was overwhelming. Eliza's stomach cramped. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Men started filing in. Ranch hands, mostly, dressed for work, hats in hands. They took seats without ceremony, reaching for food before they'd even settled into their chairs. Then came a few men in better clothes, foremen probably. And finally, Caleb Rourke himself. He didn't look at Eliza, didn't acknowledge her at all, just sat at the head of the table and accepted the coffee Mrs. Shaw poured him. Eliza stood against the wall with the other kitchen women, watching, waiting for, she wasn't sure what. Permission to eat? Dismissal? The men ate like they'd been starving, talking loud, laughing, shoving food in their mouths. It was chaos, but somehow organized chaos, everyone knowing their place and role. When they finished, they stood, grabbed their hats, and filed out. The whole meal had taken maybe 20 minutes. Caleb Rourke was the last to leave. He paused at the door, finally looked at Eliza. "Mrs. Shaw will tell me how you do," he said. Then he was gone. Mrs. Shaw surveyed the wreckage. Clean it, all of it. Dishes washed, table wiped, floor swept. Everything back in the kitchen and put away proper. You have until lunch. Lunch? Eliza's voice came out small. Noon. That's 7 hours. Should be plenty of time if you don't dawdle. Mrs. Shaw headed toward the kitchen. Oh, and Miss Boone? You can eat once the work's done. The other women were already clearing plates, moving with practiced efficiency. Eliza grabbed a stack of dishes and followed. The next 7 hours were brutal. Dishes were washed in water so hot it reddened Eliza's hands. The table had to be scrubbed, then the floor swept and mopped. Then the kitchen itself needed cleaning, counters wiped, stove scraped, pots scoured. One of the other women, a thin blonde named Sarah, took pity on Eliza around mid-morning and showed her where things were stored. Don't mind Mrs. Shaw, Sarah said quietly. She's hard on everyone at first, testing you. Testing for what? Whether you'll quit. Sarah handed Eliza a scrub brush. 3 women have quit in the last month. Couldn't take it. Why's she so angry? She's not angry. She's protective. This ranch runs smooth because she runs it smooth. She doesn't like disruption. Sarah glanced toward where Mrs. Shaw was barking orders at someone else. And you, showing up out of nowhere, talking about marrying Mr. Rourke, that's about as much disruption as it gets. By 11, Eliza's back ached and her hands were raw. But the kitchen gleamed, everything was in its place, the floor you could eat off of. Mrs. Shaw inspected the work without comment, then pointed at a chair. Sit, eat. There was bread and butter on the table, leftover biscuits, some bacon. Eliza tried to eat slowly, like a civilized person, but she was so hungry she nearly choked. Mrs. Shaw watched her with an unreadable expression. When's the last time you had a full meal? She asked. I don't remember. Truth? Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Shaw's mouth tightened. Your father. The debt. How bad is it really? We're 3 days from losing everything. And you thought marrying a stranger was the answer. I thought it was the only answer. Mrs. Shaw poured herself coffee, sat across from Eliza. For a moment, the hard mask cracked, and Eliza saw something almost like sympathy. I was 20 when I married Mr. Shaw, the older woman said. Thought I was so in love. Thought love would be enough. She laughed without humor. He drank. Beat me when the mood struck him. Died falling off his horse when I was 35, drunk as usual. You know what I felt? Eliza shook her head. Relief. Mrs. Shaw sipped her coffee. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you because you're walking into something you don't understand. Marriage isn't romance and flowers. It's hard. Harder when the man's got power and money and you've got nothing. I know. Do you, or do you just think you do? Eliza met her eyes. I know that whatever happens here can't be worse than watching my father starve. I know I'd rather take my chances with Caleb Rourke than spend the rest of my life wondering if I should have tried. Mrs. Shaw studied her for a long moment. Then she stood. Lunch is in an hour. Same routine as breakfast, but add soup and bread pudding for after. Think you can handle it? Yes, ma'am. Then let's see. Lunch was chaos again. More food, more hungry men, more noise. But this time Eliza knew the rhythm. She moved faster, anticipated what Mrs. Shaw needed before being asked. It still wasn't smooth, but it was better. After lunch came more cleaning, then preparing for dinner. Somewhere in there, Eliza lost track of time. She just worked, moving from one task to the next, her body operating on instinct while her mind went numb. Dinner was the biggest meal. Roast beef, potatoes, 3 kinds of vegetables, pies. The dining room filled not just with ranch hands, but with other people. Men in suits, a woman in a dress that probably cost more than Eliza's father's land. Family, she realized. Caleb Rourke's family. She caught glimpses through the doorway as she ferried dishes. An older man who looked like Caleb, but softer. A younger man with Caleb's build, but meaner eyes. The woman in the expensive dress, beautiful in a cold way, laughing at something. They were everything Eliza wasn't. Polished, educated, comfortable in a way that came from never having worried about money. And they were looking at Caleb expectantly, like they were waiting for something. Eliza focused on her work, but she couldn't help listening. Simply saying that Miss Hastings would be an excellent match. The older man's voice. Her father owns half of... I know what he owns, Marcus. Caleb's voice, flat. Then you understand the advantage. I understand you want me married to your business partner's daughter. It's a sound arrangement, Caleb. You gain connections, capital for expansion. I have enough capital. But the opportunity, no. Silence. Then the woman's voice, smooth as honey. Caleb, darling, no one's forcing you. We just want you to be happy and practical. Miss Hastings is both beautiful and sensible. Surely that's worth considering. I'll consider it, Victoria. Same way I've considered the dozen other women you've pushed at me this year. We're not pushing. You are. You have been. And I'm done. A chair scraped. Excuse me. Footsteps. Caleb Rourke walked past the kitchen doorway without looking in. Mrs. Shaw, who'd been silent through all this, shook her head. That's the family, she said quietly. His brother Marcus thinks he should be running this ranch. His sister-in-law Victoria thinks she should be running the family. They've been trying to marry him off for years. Control the wife, control the man. And Mr. Rourke doesn't trust easy, doesn't forgive at all, and he'll be damned before he lets anyone tell him what to do. Mrs. Shaw gave Eliza a long look. Which is probably why you're still here. You're not what they want, which makes you interesting to him. Eliza didn't know what to say to that. The evening dragged on, more cleaning, more dishes, more exhaustion. Finally, around 9, Mrs. Shaw dismissed the kitchen staff. You worked hard, she told Eliza. Not praise exactly, just fact. Tomorrow's the same. If you're still here, I'll be here. We'll see. Eliza climbed the stairs to her small room, every muscle screaming. She washed her face, sat on the bed, and stared at her hands. They were worse than this morning, red, cracked, bleeding in places. She was so tired she could cry, but she'd done it. She'd survived the first day. The knock on her door startled her. Miss Boone? Mr. Rourke wants to see you. His study. Eliza's heart jumped. She stood, tried to smooth her dress, still the same wrinkled, stained dress from yesterday, and followed the voice downstairs. The study door was open. Caleb Rourke sat behind his desk, paperwork spread in front of him. He looked up when she entered. Close the door. She did. Sit. Eliza sat in the chair across from him, her hands folded in her lap to hide the shaking. Caleb Rourke set down his pen. Mrs. Shaw says you worked hard today. Didn't complain. Kept up. I tried. She also says you're untrained, slow, that it'll take months to get you up to standard. Eliza's stomach dropped. This was it. The rejection. But, Caleb continued, she says you listen. Follow instructions. Don't make excuses. He leaned back in his chair. That counts for something. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. He opened a drawer, pulled out a piece of paper. Here's my offer. We'll have a trial period, 3 months. You work here, earn your keep. At the end of 3 months, if you're still here and still willing, we'll marry. I'll pay off your father's debt. You'll have a home, security, your name on this ranch. Eliza's heart was pounding so hard she could barely hear. But, Caleb said, and his voice went hard. You need to understand what you're agreeing to. This isn't a love match. I'm not looking for romance or affection. I'm looking for a partner, someone who can handle this life, someone who won't fall apart when things get difficult. I understand. Do you? Because things will get difficult. My family will despise you. The town will talk. People will assume you're a gold digger or worse. You'll work harder than you've ever worked, and at the end of it all, you'll be married to a man who doesn't love you and probably never will. Each word was meant to make her reconsider, to scare her off, but Eliza had spent her whole life being scared. Mr. Rourke, she said quietly, I'm not asking you to love me. I'm not even asking you to like me. I'm asking you for a chance to prove I can be useful. That's all. Why? Because my father's going to lose everything. Because I have no prospects and no future. Because this is the first time in my life anyone's offered me anything except pity or contempt. She met his eyes. You're offering me a choice. Maybe it's not a good choice. Maybe it's not what I would have picked if I had better options. But it's mine. Caleb Rourke studied her. You're either very brave or very foolish. I've been told both. Something almost like a smile crossed his face. Almost. 3 months, he said, starting tomorrow. You work, you learn, you prove you can handle this. No special treatment, no exceptions. You fail, you leave. You succeed, we talk again. And my father's debt? I'll wire the money tomorrow. 300 to the Red Hollow Bank. Consider it an advance on wages. Eliza couldn't breathe. You'll pay it? Now? Before I've proven anything? I'm buying 3 months of your time. That's the deal. You work, I pay. Simple. But what if I fail? What if I can't do it? Then I'm out $300. I've lost more on bad cattle. He picked up his pen again. Do we have an agreement? Yes. The word came out barely a whisper. Yes, sir. Then go get some sleep. Tomorrow starts early. Eliza stood, walked to the door, then stopped. Mr. Rourke. What? Why are you doing this? Really? He looked at her for a long moment. Because everyone else wants to tell me what to do, and you're the only one who asked. That night, Eliza lay in bed and thought about what she'd just agreed to. 3 months. 3 months to prove she was worth keeping. 3 months to learn how to run a household 3 times the size of any she'd ever known. 3 months under the watch of people who already hated her. But her father's debt would be paid. He'd keep the land. He'd survive. That was worth any price. The next morning came even earlier. Mrs. Shaw woke her at 4 and put her straight to work. The routine was the same. Breakfast, cleaning, lunch, more cleaning, dinner, but now Eliza was expected to know it. No more patient explanations. No more allowances for being new. She burned herself on the stove, dropped a plate, mismeasured flour, and had to start over. Mrs. Shaw didn't yell. Somehow that was worse. She just corrected, pointed, moved on. Like Eliza was a mild inconvenience. By the end of the week, Eliza could barely remember what it felt like to not be exhausted. Her hands were covered in burns and cuts. Her back ached constantly. She fell into bed each night and slept like the dead. But she was learning how to crack 3 dozen eggs without getting shell in them, how to knead bread for 50 people, how to clean a cast iron stove properly, how to keep track of inventory, how to tell when the bacon was done just by smell. Small things. But they added up. Sarah, the other kitchen worker, started talking to her more, showed her tricks, where Mrs. Shaw kept the good coffee, which ranch hands liked extra bacon, how to tell when Mr. Rourke was in a foul mood just by the way he walked. He's been different this week, Sarah said one morning while they were peeling potatoes. Quieter. Bad quiet? Just quiet. Like he's thinking about something. Sarah glanced at Eliza. Probably you. Me? His family's been here 3 times already. They know something's up. Marcus asked Mrs. Shaw straight out if Mr. Rourke was courting someone. What did she say? Told him to mind his own business. Sarah grinned. I thought Marcus was going to choke. Eliza had seen Marcus Rourke twice now. Both times he'd looked at her like she was dirt on his boot. His wife Victoria was worse, all false smiles and cutting questions. You're from Red Hollow? Victoria had asked yesterday, her voice dripping with false sweetness. How charming. I've never been. Is there much there? No, ma'am, Eliza had answered. Not much at all. I see. And your family? What do they do? My father farms, small plot. How lovely. Victoria's smile hadn't reached her eyes. Manual labor is so honest, don't you think? The implication was clear. You're beneath us. You'll always be beneath us. Eliza had just nodded and went back to work, but she'd felt the woman's eyes on her for the rest of the meal. 2 weeks in, Mrs. Shaw started teaching her the business side. Inventory lists, supply orders, budgets. The ranch went through staggering amounts of food, hundreds of pounds of flour, sugar, coffee, meat. Everything had to be tracked, ordered, stored properly. You think running a kitchen is just cooking? Mrs. Shaw said, showing Eliza ledgers full of numbers. That's 10% of the job. The rest is planning. If we run out of coffee, 30 men don't get their morning started right. If we order too much meat, it spoils and we lose money. You have to think ahead, always. Eliza's head spun with figures, but she copied everything down, asked questions, tried to understand. Late one night, she was in the kitchen going over the supply list when Caleb Rourke walked in. She nearly jumped out of her skin. Mr. Rourke, I'm sorry, I was just studying. He poured himself coffee from the pot that was always on. Mrs. Shaw works you late. I asked her to teach me the ordering. I don't want to slow her down. He sat at the table, gestured for her to continue. Eliza tried to focus on the numbers, but she was intensely aware of him watching. Your father got the money, he said after a minute. Eliza's head snapped up. He did? Telegraph came yesterday. Debt's cleared. He sent a message back. Caleb pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. Said to tell his daughter he's proud of her and to come home if she wants. Eliza's throat closed. She couldn't speak. Do you? Caleb asked. Want to go home? No. Why not? You've got what you came for. Your father's safe. Because I made a deal 3 months. I'm not leaving until it's done. Even though you don't have to anymore. Especially because I don't have to. Eliza set down her pen. I'm not here because I'm trapped now. I'm here because I said I would be. Caleb Rourke looked at her over his coffee cup. You keep surprising me. Is that good or bad? Haven't decided yet. He stood, took his coffee, and left. Eliza sat alone in the kitchen, her father's message in front of her. She read it 3 times, tears streaming down her face. He was safe. The land was safe. Everything she'd come here to accomplish was done, and she was staying anyway. The realization should have terrified her. Instead, it felt right. The 4th week brought the first real test. A group of investors arrived from Denver, 8 men and their wives, come to discuss expanding the railroad through Rourke land. They'd be staying for 3 days. This is your chance to prove yourself, Mrs. Shaw said. These people expect perfect service, perfect food, perfect everything. One mistake, and they'll tell everyone that Caleb Rourke can't even run his own household. The pressure was enormous. Special menus had to be planned, guest rooms prepared. Everything had to be immaculate. Eliza worked 20-hour days, learning which fork went where, how to serve from the left, clear from the right, how to press tablecloths so they had perfect creases. 1,000 small details that separately meant nothing but together meant everything. The first dinner was terrifying. Eliza helped serve, moving through the dining room with the other staff, trying not to shake. The investors were loud, demanding, particular. One man sent back his soup because it wasn't hot enough. A woman complained that her meat was too rare. Mrs. Shaw handled it all with icy calm, but afterward, in the kitchen, she was furious. Idiots, she muttered. Spoiled, entitled idiots. But the next night went better. And the night after that, better still. By the time the investors left, Mrs. Shaw actually smiled. You did well, she told Eliza. Not perfect, but well enough. Coming from Mrs. Shaw, that was high praise. Caleb Rourke seemed pleased too. He didn't say anything directly, but Eliza caught him watching her during meals, something thoughtful in his expression. His family noticed too. The new help seems competent, Victoria said sweetly at dinner one night. Where did you find her, Caleb? She found me, Caleb answered. How resourceful. Victoria's smile was poison. And she's staying long? As long as she wants. Marcus leaned forward. Caleb, we need to discuss Miss Hastings. Her father's getting impatient. If you're going to make an offer, I'm not. But I said no, Marcus. Let it go. You can't just keep refusing every suitable woman we... Watch me. The tension at the table was thick enough to cut. Eliza kept her eyes down, pretending to be invisible. Later, she heard them arguing, voices coming from Caleb's study, angry and sharp. You're being stubborn for the sake of being stubborn. I'm being selective. There's a difference. Selective? You haven't shown interest in anyone in 5 years. That's not true. Silence. Then Victoria's voice, dangerous. What does that mean? It means I'm handling my own affairs. Stay out of it. More arguing, but the words blurred together. Eliza hurried back to the kitchen before anyone saw her listening. Sarah was washing dishes. They always fight like that, she said. Marcus thinks he should be running things. Victoria thinks marrying Caleb off to someone she can control is the answer. And Mr. Rourke doesn't trust either of them as far as he can throw them. Sarah handed Eliza a towel. His father left the ranch to Caleb, not Marcus. That's never sat right with the family. They've been trying to undermine him for years. Why doesn't he just throw them out? Because they're family, and out here family means something, even when it shouldn't. That night, Eliza couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the arguing, about Victoria's suspicious questions, about Marcus's anger. She was a complication in their plans, an unknown variable, and they were going to do something about it. The confrontation came at the end of week 5. Eliza was alone in the kitchen, finishing the morning cleanup, when Victoria walked in. She was dressed in riding clothes, beautiful as always, her smile sharp. Eliza, isn't it? Yes, ma'am. I've been meaning to have a chat with you. Victoria sat at the table, arranged her skirts. Woman to woman. Eliza's stomach clenched. Ma'am, I think we both know what you're doing here. I'm working, ma'am, earning my keep. Please, Victoria's laugh was ice. Let's not pretend. You're a poor girl from nowhere who saw an opportunity and took it. I can't blame you for trying, but you need to understand something. What's that, ma'am? Caleb Rourke is worth more than you'll see in 10 lifetimes. Men like him don't marry women like you. They use them, maybe. Keep them around for a while, but marry? Never. Victoria leaned forward. So whatever fantasy you've built in your head, it's just that. A fantasy. Eliza's hands tightened on the dish towel. I'm not here for a fantasy. No? Then why are you here? To work. For 3 months, after which you expect to marry one of the wealthiest men in the territory. Victoria's eyes glittered. You think I don't know about your little arrangement? Please, the whole household knows. The whole town knows. Poor, desperate Eliza Boone selling herself for $300. The words hit like slaps, because they were true, all of them. What do you want? Eliza asked quietly. I want you to be realistic. Caleb is being stubborn right now, playing games with his family. But eventually he'll come to his senses. He'll marry someone appropriate, someone from a good family, someone who can actually help him instead of dragging him down. Someone like Miss Hastings. Exactly. Victoria stood. So do yourself a favor. Finish your 3 months, take whatever money he gives you, and leave. Find some nice farmer to marry. Have a simple life. Don't reach for things you can't possibly hold on to. She walked to the door, paused. This is friendly advice, Eliza. Take it. Then she was gone. Eliza stood alone in the kitchen, shaking, not from fear, from rage. Because Victoria was right about some things. Eliza was poor, desperate, out of her depth. But she was wrong about one thing. Eliza didn't quit. That evening, she found Caleb in the stables. He was checking a horse's leg, his hands gentle despite their size. Mr. Rourke? He looked up. Problem? Your sister-in-law spoke to me today. His expression darkened. What did she say? Eliza hesitated. Then, she told me to leave. Said I was reaching above my station. That you'd never actually marry someone like me. Caleb's jaw tightened. And I wanted you to know that I'm not going anywhere. Not because of her, not because of anyone. I made a deal. I'm keeping it. He studied her for a long moment. Then he stood, walked closer. Victoria's been trying to run my life since the day she married my brother, he said. She thinks money and breeding are all that matter. She's wrong. What does matter? Integrity, loyalty, being able to look someone in the eye and know they mean what they say. He was close now, close enough that Eliza could see the gray in his eyes. You've got more of that in your little finger than Victoria has in her whole body. Eliza's breath caught. 3 months, Caleb said. That was the deal. At the end of 3 months, if you're still willing, I'll marry you, and my family can go straight to hell. They'll fight you. Let them try. He turned back to the horse, the conversation clearly over. But Eliza stood there a moment longer, something warm unfurling in her chest. He'd chosen her side, against his own family. That had to mean something. The final month was the hardest, not because of the work, Eliza had that down now, but because the pressure increased. Victoria made cutting remarks every chance she got. Marcus questioned every decision Caleb made. The ranch hands whispered when Eliza walked by, but Mrs. Shaw stood firm. Ignore them, she said. Do your work. Let the gossips talk themselves hoarse. And Caleb started spending more time around the house, showing up in the kitchen for coffee, checking on dinner preparations, finding excuses to be near. He didn't say much, but his presence said enough. The night before the 3 months ended, Eliza couldn't sleep. She sat in her room staring at her hands. They were still rough, still scarred. But they were capable now, strong. She'd done it. She'd survived. Tomorrow, Caleb Rourke would ask if she was still willing to marry him, and she'd have to decide if she was brave enough to say yes. The knock came at dawn. Not Mrs. Shaw this time. Caleb himself. Get dressed, he said through the door. Meet me at the stables in 10 minutes. Eliza's heart hammered. This was it. The end of 3 months. Decision time. She pulled on her work dress, the new one Mrs. Shaw had grudgingly provided after the old one literally fell apart, and hurried downstairs. The house was still dark, the kitchen cold. No one else was awake. Caleb stood by the stable door, 2 horses already saddled. He handed her the reins of a gray mare without a word. Where are we going? Eliza asked. Ride with me. She'd learned to ride in the past month, badly, but enough to stay on. She climbed into the saddle and followed him out into the pre-dawn darkness. They rode in silence for maybe 20 minutes, heading east. The sky was just starting to lighten, turning the world gray and formless. Eliza had no idea where they were going or why, but she didn't ask. Caleb's face was set, unreadable. Finally, he stopped at the top of a rise. Below them, the land spread out in rolling waves. Pastures, streams, clusters of cattle like dark spots against the grass. And in the distance, the ranch buildings looking small and temporary. Caleb dismounted. Eliza did the same. My father brought me here when I was 12, Caleb said, staring out at the view. Told me this would all be mine someday. That it was my responsibility to make it bigger, stronger, better than he ever could. He paused. That's a heavy thing to put on a kid. Eliza said nothing, waited. I've spent 30 years building this place, making it profitable, making it last. And everyone, my family, the town, every opportunist with a daughter, they all think they know what I need. He turned to look at her. They're all wrong. What do you need? Eliza asked quietly. Someone who sees the work, not the reward. Someone who understands that this life is hard and doesn't get easier just because you have money. He took a breath. Someone honest. The sun broke over the horizon, flooding the valley with gold light. 3 months ago, you showed up at my door and told me exactly what you wanted, and why. No games, no pretending. Caleb's eyes were steady on hers. I've been watching you since. Watching you work yourself half to death. Watching you take Victoria's insults without breaking. Watching you earn Mrs. Shaw's respect, which is damn near impossible. Mr. Rourke, let me finish. He pulled something from his pocket, a small box. I'm not good at pretty words, never have been. But I can tell you this, I want a partner, someone who can stand beside me and run this ranch when I'm gone, someone who won't fold when things get ugly, someone I can trust. He opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band. I'm asking if you'll marry me, for real this time, not as a business arrangement, not as a favor, as a choice. Eliza stared at the ring. Her hands were shaking. You don't love me, she said. No. His honesty was brutal. But I respect you. And I think, given time, that could turn into something worth having. Your family will never accept it. I don't care what they accept. The town will talk. Let them. Eliza looked up at him. This hard, complicated man who'd given her a chance when no one else would, who'd paid her father's debt on faith alone. who stood against his own family because he valued honesty over breeding. She thought about Red Hollow, about the life she'd left behind, about her father, safe now, probably sitting in his house drinking coffee and thanking whatever powers existed that his daughter had been brave enough to try. She thought about the last 3 months, the work, the exhaustion, the small victories. Mrs. Shaw's grudging approval, Sarah's friendship, the feeling of being useful, needed, part of something bigger than survival. She thought about what waited if she said no. Going back, finding some farmer to marry, living small, living safe. And she thought about what waited if she said yes. This valley, this ranch, this man, this impossible, terrifying, exhilarating life. Yes, Eliza said. Caleb's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Relief, maybe, or surprise that she'd actually agreed. He took the ring from the box and held out his hand. Eliza gave him hers, rough, scarred, nothing like the delicate hands of the women his family wanted him to marry. He slid the ring on. It fit. "We'll do it today," he said, "before anyone can interfere. There's a judge in town who owes me a favor." "Today?" Eliza's voice cracked. "You want to give Victoria time to talk you out of it?" "No, but then today." He looked at her. "Unless you're having second thoughts." "I'm having about 1,000 thoughts, but not second ones." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Good. Let's go." They rode back to the ranch as the sun climbed higher. Eliza's mind was spinning. Married. Today. To Caleb Rourke. It was insane. Completely insane. But she'd said yes. When they reached the stables, Mrs. Shaw was waiting, arms crossed, face thunderous. "Where have you been? Breakfast is in 20 minutes and nothing's—" She stopped, seeing their faces, seeing the ring on Eliza's finger. "Oh. We're going to town," Caleb said, dismounting. "We'll be back this afternoon. Married." Mrs. Shaw's eyes went wide. "Today? You're doing it today?" "Yes. But the family can find out after." Caleb handed his reins to a stable hand. "Tell them whatever you want. Tell them nothing. I don't care." Mrs. Shaw looked at Eliza. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the older woman's face softened, just slightly. "You'll want to change," she said. "Can't get married in a work dress." "I don't have anything else." "Yes, you do. Come with me." Eliza followed Mrs. Shaw into the house, up to the housekeeper's own room. From a trunk, Mrs. Shaw pulled out a dress. Simple, blue. Clean. "This was mine," she said, "from before Mr. Shaw showed his true colors. It'll fit you more or less." "Mrs. Shaw, I can't." "You can and you will. I'm not having people say Caleb Rourke's wife got married in rags." She thrust the dress at Eliza. "Change, quickly. He'll want to leave soon." Eliza changed, her fingers fumbling the buttons. The dress was a little loose in the waist, a little tight in the shoulders, but it was clean and whole and infinitely better than anything she owned. Mrs. Shaw pinned Eliza's hair up, fussing in a way she never had before. "You're sure about this?" she asked quietly. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." "That's either brave or stupid." "Probably both." Mrs. Shaw stepped back, examined her work. "You'll do." Then softer. "He's a hard man, Eliza, but he's fair, and he keeps his word. That's more than most can say." "I know. And if he ever raises a hand to you, you come straight to me. Understand?" Eliza's throat tightened. "Yes, ma'am." They went downstairs. Caleb was waiting with a buggy, wearing what passed for his good clothes, still workwear, but clean. He looked at Eliza and nodded once. "You look presentable." "High praise," Mrs. Shaw muttered. They climbed into the buggy. As they pulled away, Eliza saw faces in the windows. Sarah. Some of the ranch hands. Word was already spreading. The ride to town was quiet. Caleb drove with his eyes on the road. Eliza sat beside him, trying not to think about what was about to happen, trying not to panic. "You can still change your mind," Caleb said. "So can you." "I asked the question. I don't take it back." "Then neither do I." He glanced at her. Stubborn. "You knew that already." "Yeah, I did." They reached Copper Valley by mid-morning. Caleb drove straight to a large house on the edge of town and knocked. A man answered, 60-ish, gray beard, sharp eyes. Caleb Rourke. Didn't expect to see you today. Judge Hartley, need a favor. The judge looked past Caleb to Eliza, understanding dawning. I see. Come in. The ceremony was brief, perfunctory. The judge's wife served as witness, a pleasant woman who kept giving Eliza encouraging smiles. They stood in the front parlor while the judge read from a book, the words washing over Eliza like water. Do you take this man? Do you take this woman? I do. I do. The judge pronounced them married. Caleb shook his hand. Eliza signed the certificate in her careful script. And just like that, it was done. She was Mrs. Rourke. The judge's wife insisted they stay for coffee and cake. Eliza sat in a stranger's parlor drinking coffee from a china cup, a gold ring on her finger, married to a man she barely knew. It felt utterly unreal. Your family know about this? The judge asked Caleb. They will soon enough. That's going to be an interesting conversation. That's one word for it. The judge laughed. Well, congratulations. May you have better luck than most. They left an hour later, the marriage certificate folded in Caleb's pocket. The ride back was even quieter than the ride there. Reality was setting in. Eliza was married to Caleb Rourke. She was the lady of the house now, the mistress of Rourke Ranch, responsible for everything she'd been doing as a worker, but now with authority, with permanence. The weight of it was crushing. Breathe, Caleb said. What? You stopped breathing? Breathe. Eliza sucked in air. Sorry, this is real now. Yes. Your family is going to lose their minds. Probably. What are we going to tell them? The truth. That we're married and they can accept it or leave. He looked at her. I meant what I said. I don't care what they think. But they're your family. Doesn't mean I have to let them run my life. They reached the ranch just after noon. The yard was suspiciously busy. Too many people standing around who should have been working. Everyone knew. Caleb helped Eliza down from the buggy. She could feel eyes on them, whispers starting. Marcus appeared from the house, Victoria right behind him. Their expressions were thunderous. Caleb, Marcus said, we need to talk. Now. Later. I'm busy. This can't wait. There are rumors. Not rumors. Caleb put his hand on the small of Eliza's back. Fact. Eliza and I were married this morning. Judge Hartley presided. It's legal and done. The yard went silent. Marcus's face turned purple. You what? You heard me. You married the help, the girl from nowhere, without consulting the family? I don't need to consult anyone. It's my life. Victoria stepped forward, her face a mask of fury barely controlled. Caleb, you can't be serious. This is madness. An annulment. No annulment. No discussion. Eliza is my wife. That's the end of it. The end? Marcus's voice rose. You just torpedoed every business connection we've been building. Miss Hastings' father will pull his investment. The Denver group will reconsider their partnership. You've humiliated this family. I've married a woman who actually works for a living. If that humiliates you, that's your problem. You selfish... Marcus stopped himself, breathing hard. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You can accept it or you can leave. Your choice. Marcus looked at Eliza with pure hatred. You did this. You manipulated him. Enough. Caleb's voice went hard. You want to be angry at someone. Be angry at me. But you speak to my wife with respect or you don't speak at all. The yard was so quiet, Eliza could hear her own heartbeat. Marcus turned and stalked back into the house. Victoria followed, but not before giving Eliza a look that promised retribution. The crowd dispersed slowly, everyone trying to look busy while clearly dying to gossip. Mrs. Shaw appeared, took one look at their faces, and sighed. Well, that went about as expected. Is lunch ready? Caleb asked. Yes, but... Then we'll eat, same as always. He looked at Eliza. Come on. They walked into the house together. Eliza's legs were shaking, but she kept her head up. She was Mrs. Rourke now. She had to act like it. The dining room was half empty. Marcus and Victoria were conspicuously absent. The ranch hands who were there kept their eyes down, suddenly very interested in their food. Caleb sat at the head of the table. Eliza hesitated, then sat beside him. the place that would have been for his wife, because she was his wife now. Mrs. Shaw served the meal without comment, though Eliza caught the older woman's eye once and saw something almost like approval. The meal was awkward. No one spoke. The silence pressed down like a physical weight. Finally, one of the older ranch hands, a man named Tom who'd been kind to Eliza, cleared his throat. "Congratulations, boss, ma'am." "Thank you, Tom," Caleb said. That broke the ice slightly. A few others mumbled congratulations. It wasn't much, but it was something. After lunch, Caleb took Eliza to the second floor, to a door she'd never been through. "These are my rooms," he said. "Ours now, I suppose." He opened the door onto a suite. Bedroom, sitting area, private bathroom, larger than her father's entire house. "You can change things if you want," Caleb said. "Redecorate. Whatever women do." Eliza walked around slowly, touching nothing. There was a bed, large, that she was apparently expected to share. The thought made her stomach flip. "I'll sleep in the sitting room," Caleb said, reading her face. "Until you're comfortable. No rush on anything." Relief flooded through her. "Thank you. This is strange for both of us. We'll figure it out as we go." He gestured to a wardrobe. "Mrs. Shaw will bring your things up. Not that you have much." "No. We'll fix that. Can't have people saying I keep my wife in rags." He moved toward the door. "Rest if you want. I have work to do. We'll have dinner with the family tonight. That should be entertaining." He left. Eliza sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process everything that had happened in the last 6 hours. She'd woken up as a worker. Now she was the lady of the house, married, mistress of an empire. It was too much, way too much. A knock on the door. Mrs. Shaw entered carrying Eliza's pathetic bundle of possessions. "Where do you want these?" "I don't know. Anywhere." Mrs. Shaw set them down, then looked at Eliza. "You all right?" "I don't know that either." The older woman sat beside her. "First day I became Mrs. Shaw, I cried for 3 hours, scared out of my mind. Didn't know if I'd made the right choice." She paused. "Turned out I hadn't. But that's not your story." "How do you know?" "Because Caleb Rourke is nothing like my husband. He's hard, yes, but he's not cruel, and he chose you, against everyone's advice, against his family's wishes. That means something. Or he's just being stubborn. Maybe. But I've worked for him 10 years. I've seen him make a lot of decisions. He doesn't do things on impulse. If he married you, he had his reasons. Good ones." Eliza wanted to believe that. "His family hates me. His family hates anyone they can't control. Don't take it personal." "How can I not take it personal when Victoria looks at me like I'm something she scraped off her shoe?" Mrs. Shaw stood. "By remembering that you're Mrs. Rourke now, you outrank her. This is your house. And if she can't show respect, she can leave." "I can't throw out his family." "Maybe not. But you can make it clear they don't run things anymore. You do." She headed for the door. "Dinner's at 6. Wear something nice. Show them you're not intimidated." "But I don't have anything nice." Mrs. Shaw paused. "Check the wardrobe. 3rd drawer." After she left, Eliza opened the wardrobe. The 3rd drawer held dresses. New dresses. Simple, but well made. In her size. Mrs. Shaw must have ordered them weeks ago, prepared for this. Eliza's throat tightened. The hard, harsh woman who'd tested her mercilessly had been quietly planning for her success all along. She chose a dark green dress, changed into it, and tried to see herself as Caleb's wife instead of desperate Eliza Boone from Red Hollow. It didn't work. She still saw the same scared girl. But she stood up straighter anyway. Dinner was a battlefield. The whole family was there. Marcus and Victoria. Caleb's father Edmund, an older, softer version of Caleb who'd apparently been living in the guest house and staying out of ranch business for years. A cousin named James who worked as foreman, and several others whose names Eliza didn't catch. They all stared at her when she walked in. Caleb stood, pulled out the chair beside him. Eliza sat. Edmund cleared his throat. "Well, this is unexpected." "Life's full of surprises," Caleb said. "Indeed." The old man looked at Eliza. "Welcome to the family, my dear. I'm sorry we're meeting under such unusual circumstances." "Thank you, sir." "Don't encourage this, father," Marcus snapped. "This marriage is a mistake, an embarrassment. It's done, Edmund said mildly. No point arguing about it now. There's every point. Caleb's thrown away years of careful planning. Miss Hastings didn't want me, Caleb interrupted. She wanted the ranch, the money, the connections, same as all the others you've pushed at me. That's how these things work. Marriage is a business arrangement. For you maybe, not for me. Victoria leaned forward, her voice honey-sweet poison. Caleb, darling, we're not trying to be difficult. We just want to understand. What exactly does this girl bring to the marriage? No connections, no dowry, no education to speak of. She brings honesty, Caleb said, and loyalty, and the ability to work harder than anyone in this room. How lovely. I'm sure that will be very useful when we're trying to negotiate contracts with people who care about breeding and social standing. Then I'll negotiate my own contracts, like I always have. The meal was served. Eliza barely tasted it. She kept her eyes on her plate, acutely aware of being examined, judged, found wanting. James, the cousin, tried to ease the tension. So Eliza, Red Hollow, that's a long way from here. Yes, sir. What brought you all the way out to Copper Valley? Eliza glanced at Caleb. He gave a slight nod. I saw an advertisement, she said, for a wife. I needed money to save my father's land, so I came. The honesty made several people choke on their food. Well, James said after a moment, at least you're direct about it. I don't believe in pretending, Eliza said. Mr. Rourke asked me to be honest, so I am. Victoria's laugh was sharp. How refreshing. A woman who admits she married for money. I married for my father's survival, Eliza corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Sounds like mercenary either way. Victoria. Caleb's voice was quiet. Dangerous. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Then let me be clear what I'm thinking. Eliza is my wife. You will treat her with respect or you will leave this table, this house, this ranch, permanently. Silence. Marcus threw down his napkin. You'd choose her over your own family? I'd choose respect over pettiness. Every time. Marcus stood. This is insane. You've lost your mind. Then leave. Door's right there. For a moment, Eliza thought Marcus actually would leave. He looked furious enough. But Victoria put a hand on his arm, whispered something. He sat back down, jaw tight. The rest of the meal was eaten in tense silence. Afterward, Eliza escaped to the kitchen. Mrs. Shaw took one look at her face and poured her tea. That bad? Worse. They'll come around, or they won't. Either way, you survived. Eliza sipped the tea with shaking hands. I don't know if I can do this. Every meal, every day, being hated. You can. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. Good. Means you're paying attention. Mrs. Shaw sat across from her. Listen to me. This family has run roughshod over everyone for years. Victoria thinks she's the queen. Marcus thinks he's owed something. They're used to getting their way. You just change that. I didn't mean to. Doesn't matter. You did. And now you have a choice. You can shrink back, make yourself small, try to please them, which won't work because they'll never accept you anyway. She leaned forward. Or you can stand tall. Be Mrs. Rourke. Run this house the way you know it should be run. Make them adjust to you instead of the other way around. How? By not backing down. By being fair but firm. By showing everyone, family included, that you're not going anywhere. She paused. You've spent 3 months proving you can work. Now prove you can lead. That night, Eliza lay in Caleb's bed, her bed now, staring at the ceiling. Caleb was in the sitting room as promised, giving her space. She could hear him moving around occasionally. She'd done it. Actually done it. Married him. Become Mrs. Rourke. And now she had to figure out how to be the person everyone expected while not losing herself entirely. The next morning, she woke early and went to the kitchen. Mrs. Shaw was already there. I want to help with breakfast, Eliza said. You're the lady of the house now. You don't need to. I want to. I need to feel useful. Please. Mrs. Shaw studied her, then nodded. All right, but we do it my way. They fell into the old routine. Eliza cooking, serving, cleaning, but this time when she carried food to the dining room, she didn't keep her eyes down. She met people's gazes, acknowledged greetings. Caleb watched her with something like approval. After breakfast, he found her in the study. "You don't have to work in the kitchen," he said. "That's not expected." "I know, but I like it. It's the one place I know what I'm doing." "Fair enough." He paused. "There's something we need to discuss. The ranch accounts, the household budget, all of that runs through this office now. You should know how it works." "Why?" "Because you're my wife. If something happens to me, you need to be able to keep things running." The thought hadn't even occurred to her, but he was right. She needed to understand the business, all of it. They spent the morning going over ledgers, income and expenses, cattle prices, feed costs, labor expenses. The numbers were staggering, tens of thousands of dollars moving through the ranch every month. "This is overwhelming," Eliza said finally. "You'll learn, same way you learned the kitchen." "The kitchen didn't have this many zeros." He almost smiled. "No, but the principle's the same. Track everything, plan ahead. Don't spend more than you make." Over the next few days, a routine emerged. Eliza still helped with meals, but now she also sat in on business meetings, learned the names of suppliers, buyers, investors, started to understand the web of relationships that kept the ranch running. It was exhausting, but also exhilarating. She was learning, growing, becoming someone she hadn't known she could be. The family continued to make things difficult. Victoria's cutting remarks, Marcus's barely concealed contempt. But Eliza followed Mrs. Shaw's advice. She didn't shrink, didn't apologize, just kept doing the work. Slowly, grudgingly, some people started to accept her. Tom and the other ranch hands treated her with respect. Sarah was thrilled to have her friend elevated. Even some of the family members, the cousins and distant relations, seemed willing to give her a chance. But Victoria and Marcus remained hostile. It came to a head 2 weeks after the wedding. Eliza was in the study reviewing supply orders when Victoria walked in without knocking. "We need to talk," she said. "About what?" "About this farce you're playing." Victoria sat down uninvited. "Let's be honest with each other. You married Caleb for money. He married you to spite his family. It's not a real marriage. It's legal. That makes it real. Please. You're sleeping in separate rooms. Everyone knows." Eliza's face heated. "That's none of your business." "It is when it affects the family. An unconsummated marriage can be annulled, and I think that's what needs to happen." "Caleb won't agree to that." "He will if you disappear." Victoria leaned forward. "I'm offering you a way out, $10,000. Enough to set up your father for life. All you have to do is leave, quietly. We'll handle the annulment, $10,000. More money than Eliza had ever imagined. "No," she said. "Don't be stupid. This is more than you could make in 10 lifetimes. I said no." "Why?" "You don't love him. He doesn't love you. Why stay?" "Because I gave my word. Because this is my home now. Because I'm not running just because you want me to." Victoria's expression turned ugly. "You're going to regret this." "Maybe, but it'll be my regret. My choice." She stood. The conversation was over. Victoria left, but her words lingered. $10,000. Eliza could have taken it. Should have, maybe. It would have solved every problem. But she'd meant what she said. This was her home now. She wasn't leaving. That night, she told Caleb about the offer. His face went dark. "She did what?" "Offered me money to leave. 10,000. And you said no." "Of course I said no." He looked at her for a long moment. "Why?" "Because I'm not for sale. Not anymore." Eliza met his eyes. "I came here desperate, willing to do anything. But I'm not that person now. I'm your wife. I gave my word. That means something to me." Something shifted in his expression. "Victoria needs to leave. She's your family." "She tried to bribe my wife. That crosses a line." He stood. "This ends now." The confrontation was loud enough that half the house heard it. Caleb telling Marcus and Victoria they were no longer welcome. Marcus shouting about betrayal. Victoria in tears. Fake ones, probably. Edmund sided with Caleb. Said it was his house, his choice. By morning, Marcus and Victoria were gone. The house felt different without them. Lighter. Like a weight had lifted. "You didn't have to do that," Eliza said. "Yes, I did. They weren't going to stop. Better to end it now." "Your brother made his choice. He can live with it." But Eliza saw the cost in his eyes. Family meant something to him, even when that family was poison. She reached for his hand, squeezed it once. He squeezed back. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was something. Understanding, maybe. Partnership. It was a start. The first winter storm hit 3 weeks after Marcus and Victoria left. Eliza woke to silence, the strange, muffled silence that meant snow. She went to the window and saw the world had turned white overnight. Not just a dusting, this was serious. Drifts piled against the buildings, wind howling through the eaves. She dressed quickly and went downstairs. The kitchen was already chaos. "Storm's going to last 3 days," Mrs. Shaw said without preamble. "Maybe more. We need to prepare." Eliza had lived through winters in Red Hollow, but this was different. Red Hollow was a handful of people huddled against the cold. The ranch was over 60 people who all needed to eat, stay warm, survive. "What do you need me to do?" Mrs. Shaw looked at her with something like respect, not asking if there was a problem, just asking how to help. "Inventory. Now. I need to know exactly what we have. Food, fuel, medical supplies, everything." They spent the morning counting. Sacks of flour, barrels of salted meat, crates of canned goods. It was impressive how much food the ranch stored, but watching the numbers, Eliza realized it might not be enough if the storm lasted. Caleb came in covered in snow, his face grim. "Lost fence in the north pasture. Cattle are drifting. We're bringing them closer to the buildings, but it's slow going." "How many men out there?" Mrs. Shaw asked. 20, rotating shifts so no one's out too long. "They'll need hot food every 4 hours. And dry clothes. Can you manage it?" "We'll manage." Mrs. Shaw looked at Eliza. "Won't we?" "Yes, ma'am." The next 3 days were hell. Cooking in shifts, keeping fires going, making sure the men who came in from the cold had hot coffee, hot food, dry clothes. Eliza barely slept. None of them did. She learned what it meant to run a household in a crisis. Not just cooking, logistics, planning, making sure supplies lasted, rationing without making it obvious they were rationing, keeping morale up when everyone was exhausted and scared. The second night, one of the men came in with frostbite. Bad. His fingers black and swollen. Mrs. Shaw took one look and cursed. "Get him to the bunkhouse. Warm water, not hot. Slow warming." "Shouldn't we call a doctor?" Eliza asked. "Can't. Roads are impassable. We handle it ourselves." Eliza helped, holding the man steady while Mrs. Shaw worked, listening to him scream when the feeling came back. It was brutal, worse than anything she'd experienced, but he lived, kept his fingers mostly. 2 on his left hand would never work right again, but he lived. Caleb found her afterward, sitting in the kitchen, shaking. "First time seeing something like that?" he asked. "Yes. Won't be the last. This life is hard. People get hurt. Sometimes they die." He sat beside her. "But you didn't fall apart. That counts." "I wanted to. But you didn't." That became the measure of everything, not whether you wanted to quit, whether you actually did. The storm finally broke on the 4th day. The sun came out, brilliant against the snow. The temperature dropped even further, 20 below, someone said, but at least the wind stopped. The damage assessment took days. Fence down in multiple places. 3 cattle dead. 1 barn roof partially collapsed. But it could have been worse. Much worse. Eliza worked alongside everyone else, helping clear snow, salvage what could be salvaged, make lists of what needed replacing. Her hands cracked and bled from the cold. Her back ached. But she kept going. One afternoon, she was shoveling snow from a walkway when she heard voices, angry voices. She looked up to see 2 ranch hands facing each other, both red-faced. "I said I had the north section," one shouted. "And I said, I'm not doing double work because you're too lazy to finish." "Who are you calling lazy?" They were seconds from throwing punches. Eliza dropped her shovel and walked over. "Stop." They both turned, surprised. "What's the problem?" she asked. The first man, Jake, she thought his name was, sneered slightly. "No disrespect, ma'am, but this isn't your concern. I'm Mrs. Rourke. Everything on this ranch is my concern. Now what's the problem?" They both stared at her. She'd never pulled rank before, never had to. But Mrs. Shaw's words echoed. "You can lead or you can follow. Choose." "The fence sections," Jake finally said, We're both assigned to the same area, but there's confusion about who does what. Where's the assignment sheet? Foreman has it. Then go ask him. Get it clarified. Stop wasting time arguing and start working. We've got 3 weeks of repairs ahead, and everyone needs to pull together. They exchanged glances, then grudgingly nodded and walked off. Eliza's hands were shaking. She'd just ordered around men twice her size, and they'd listened. Well handled. She spun. Edmund Rourke stood a few feet away, watching with interest. Mr. Rourke, I didn't see you. Edmund, please, we're family now. He came closer. That was good. Firm but fair. They respected it. They resented it. Maybe. But they respected it more. That's what matters. He looked out at the snow-covered ranch. My son chose well. I wasn't sure at first, I'll admit. But watching you these past weeks, you're stronger than people think. I don't feel strong. The strong ones never do. It's the weak ones who puff themselves up. He smiled slightly. Victoria, for instance, all show, no substance. You're the opposite. She hates me. She hates anyone she can't manipulate. Consider it a compliment. Edmund started to walk away, then paused. Caleb's mother died when he was 15. After that, he closed himself off. Didn't trust easily. Didn't let people in. I'd given up hope he'd ever find someone who could stand beside him as an equal, but then you showed up. I'm not his equal. Look at everything he's built, everything he... You're missing the point. Equality isn't about money or land. It's about being able to weather the storms together, literally and figuratively. Edmund's eyes were kind. You did that this week. You stood beside him. That's all that matters. After he left, Eliza stood in the cold, thinking about his words. She and Caleb had barely spoken during the crisis, both too busy. But they'd worked in tandem. He'd handled the outside, she'd handled the inside. It had just happened, naturally, like they'd been doing it for years instead of weeks. That night, after the dinner chaos had settled and the kitchen was clean, Eliza found Caleb in the study. He looked exhausted, papers spread across his desk. How bad is the damage? She asked. Could be worse. 10,000 in repairs, maybe. We'll manage. And the man who lost his fingers? Tom says he can still work. Different job, maybe, but he can work. We'll figure it out. Eliza sat in the chair across from him. They'd fallen into this pattern, end-of-day conversations where they reviewed what happened, planned for tomorrow. It felt comfortable, safe. Edmund talked to me today, she said. Caleb looked up. About what? About you. About us. He said you chose well. He's biased. I'm his son. He said your mother died when you were young. Caleb's expression shuddered. She did. Fever. 1 week she was fine, the next she was gone. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. He set down his pen. Why bring it up? Because I want to know you. Actually know you. We're married, but I don't know anything about you except you're hard to work for and harder to read. A slight smile. Fair assessment. So tell me something, anything. What was she like? Your mother? Caleb was quiet for so long Eliza thought he wouldn't answer. Then, she was kind. Too kind for this life, maybe. She tried to make the ranch feel like a home instead of a business. Flowers everywhere, music. She'd make everyone sit down for Sunday dinners together. He paused. After she died, my father fell apart. Stopped caring about the ranch. About anything. I was 15 and suddenly responsible for keeping everything running. That's too much for a kid. Didn't have a choice. Marcus was useless, more interested in socializing than working. Someone had to do it. His voice was flat, but Eliza heard the old pain underneath. I grew up fast. Maybe too fast. Forgot how to be anything except responsible. Is that why you never married before? Partly. Also because everyone who showed interest wanted the ranch, not me. I got tired of being seen as a prize to be won. He looked at her. You were different. You told me straight out you wanted money. No pretending it was anything else. Does that bother you, that I married you for mercenary reasons? No, because you were honest about it. And because you've proven it's not just about money anymore. You could have taken Victoria's offer. You didn't. I told you, I gave my word. Most people's word doesn't mean much. Yours does. He stood, walked to the window. I've been thinking about us, about this arrangement. Eliza's heart jumped. What about it? It's not really an arrangement anymore, is it? We're partners. We work together. We're building something. He turned to face her. I know we agreed this wasn't a love match, but I think it could become something good if we let it. What are you saying? I'm saying I trust you, I respect you, and I'd like to try making this a real marriage, not just on paper. The air between them felt charged. Eliza's pulse was racing. I don't know how to be a wife, she said quietly. Not the kind you probably need. I'm rough, unpolished. I say the wrong things. You say honest things. That's better. He crossed back to her, held out his hand. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking if you're willing to try. Eliza looked at his hand. Calloused, strong. The hand of a man who'd built an empire through sheer will. She put her hand in his. Yes, she said, I'm willing to try. That night, for the first time, they shared the bed. Nothing happened, both too exhausted, too unsure. But they lay beside each other in the darkness, and that was enough. It was a beginning. The weeks that followed were strange. Learning to be not just partners in work, but in life. Learning each other's rhythms, preferences, quirks. Caleb liked his coffee black and scalding. Eliza couldn't sleep without a window cracked open. Small things. But they mattered. The physical intimacy came slowly. Awkwardly at first, two people who'd never been vulnerable with anyone trying to figure out how. But gradually it became easier, more natural. Eliza discovered Caleb was gentler than he appeared, that he cared deeply even when he didn't show it, that he carried the weight of the ranch on his shoulders and rarely complained. Caleb discovered Eliza was fiercer than she realized, that she had opinions and wasn't afraid to voice them, that she could be pushed only so far before she pushed back. They fought sometimes, loud arguments about decisions, about money, about his tendency to shut her out when things got difficult. But they always came back to each other, always talked it through. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Spring came. The snow melted. The ranch exploded with activity, calving season, branding, 1,000 tasks that needed doing. Eliza was in the middle of all of it now. Not just cooking and cleaning, she was handling contracts with suppliers, negotiating price, managing the household budget and staff, making decisions. The ranch hand started coming to her with questions instead of always going to Caleb. At first it felt strange, then it felt right. She was Mrs. Rourke. This was her ranch too. One morning a letter arrived from her father. Eliza opened it with shaking hands. The handwriting was shaky, but the message was clear. He was doing well. The land was producing again. He'd hired a hand to help with the work. He missed her, but was proud of her. So proud. She cried reading it. Happy tears this time. Caleb found her in the garden. She'd started a garden, herbs and vegetables, something her mother used to do, and sat beside her. Good news or bad? Good. My father's well. The land's doing well. She wiped her eyes. I keep thinking I should visit. Make sure he's really all right. So visit. It's only 2 days' travel. I can't just leave. There's too much work. Eliza. He took her hand. You're not a prisoner. You can visit your father. Mrs. Shaw can handle things for a few days. I can handle things. Go. See him. Let him see you happy. Am I? Happy? Are you? Eliza thought about it. Really thought. 3 months ago, she'd been desperate, starving, scared. Now she was well-fed, secure, married to a man who respected her. She worked hard, but she worked for herself now, not just survival. Yes, she said. I think I am. Then go show him. She went the following week. The journey to Red Hollow felt surreal, retracing the route she'd taken as a desperate girl. But she wasn't that girl anymore. Her father cried when he saw her, held her for a long time. You look good, he said finally. Healthy. Happy. I am, Papa. He treats you well, Rourke? Better than I expected. Better than I probably deserve. You deserve everything good, Eliza. Don't forget that. She stayed 3 days, helped him around the property, met the hand he'd hired, a young man who clearly respected her father, saw that everything she'd done had been worth it. The land was saved. Her father was safe. On the last night, sitting on the porch in the gathering darkness, her father said, You don't have to go back if you don't want to. I'm doing fine now. You could stay. I know, Papa. But I don't want to stay. That ranch, it's home now. And Rourke? He's my husband, for real, not just on paper. Thomas Boone looked at his daughter, no longer a girl, but a woman who'd survived impossible choices and come out stronger. Then I'm glad. You deserve a good life, Eliza. You fought for it, earned it. She returned to the ranch with a lighter heart. Caleb met her at the door, pulled her into a quick embrace. How was it? Good, really good. She looked up at him. I'm glad to be home, though. Home, he repeated, testing the word, then smiled. Yeah, home. But not everything was peaceful. Marcus and Victoria had been quiet since leaving, but quiet didn't mean gone. Word came through Edmund that they were spreading rumors in town, that Eliza had seduced Caleb, that she was manipulating him, that the ranch would fail under her influence. Let them talk, Caleb said when Eliza worried about it. Talk is cheap. But what if it affects business? What if people won't work with you because then they weren't worth working with anyway? He pulled her close. I don't care what they say. I know the truth. You know the truth. That's enough. It wasn't enough when the first contractor pulled out of a deal, or when a supplier suddenly wanted cash up front instead of credit, or when invitations to social events dried up. The rumors were having an effect. Eliza felt the guilt like a weight. This was her fault. If she'd just stayed in her place, kept quiet, been what Victoria wanted. Stop, Caleb said when she voiced these thoughts. This isn't your fault. This is Marcus trying to undermine me. He's been doing it for years. You're just the latest excuse. But no, listen to me. You've made this ranch better. The household runs smoother. The men respect you. The books are cleaner than they've been in years. You've earned your place here. Don't let anyone, especially not Marcus, make you feel otherwise. Still, the pressure built. Every lost contract felt personal. Every whispered conversation when she went to town felt like judgment. It came to a head at a community gathering in Copper Valley. A celebration for the railroad expansion. Everyone who mattered was there. Eliza didn't want to go, but Caleb insisted. We're not hiding. We did nothing wrong. They arrived to stairs. Whispers. A few people greeted them warmly. Judge Hartley and his wife, Edmund, some of the ranch hands who lived in town, but most gave them a wide berth. Victoria was there, of course, holding court in the center of the room, beautiful and poisonous, surrounded by admirers. She saw Eliza and smiled. The smile of a predator. Eliza, darling, how lovely to see you. Tell me, how are you managing? I know running a large household must be so challenging for someone with your limited background. The room went quiet. Everyone listening. Eliza could feel Caleb tense beside her. She put a hand on his arm. This was her fight. I'm managing fine, thank you. The household runs smoothly. The accounts are balanced. The staff is well cared for. She met Victoria's eyes. Everything a wife should do. How industrious. Though I suppose when you come from nothing, even basic competence feels like an achievement. The insult was clear, brutal. Eliza felt heat rise in her face. She wanted to run, hide, prove Victoria right by falling apart. Instead, she smiled. You're right, Victoria. I did come from nothing. I know what it's like to be hungry, to be cold, to watch someone you love struggle. She stepped closer. But I also know what it's like to work for everything you have, to earn respect instead of expecting it, to build something instead of just inheriting it. Are you implying I'm saying you've never had to fight for anything in your life? Everything was handed to you, so you don't understand what it means to actually deserve what you have. Eliza's voice was steady now, strong. I may have come from nothing, but I've earned my place. Can you say the same? The room was dead silent. Victoria's face had gone white, then red. How dare you? I dare because I'm Mrs. Rourke. This is my community now, too, and I'm not going to let you bully me anymore. She turned and walked away, Caleb beside her. Outside, in the cool evening air, she started shaking. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen, Caleb said. Probably stupid. No, brave. He pulled her close. You stood up for yourself, for us. That took courage. She's going to make our lives hell now. She was already doing that. At least now everyone knows you're not a pushover. They left the gathering early, but the next day, something unexpected happened. People started talking, But not the way Victoria intended. They talked about Eliza's backbone, about how she'd stood up to Victoria's bullying, about how maybe the girl from Red Hollow had more to her than anyone realized. The tide began to shift. Contractors started calling again. Invitations arrived. People in town greeted them warmly. And Victoria? She and Marcus left Copper Valley entirely. Moved to Denver, someone said. Good riddance, said someone else. The ranch settled into a new normal. Eliza and Caleb working side by side, building not just a business, but a life. Mrs. Shaw grudgingly admitting Eliza had become a capable manager, Sarah becoming a true friend, not just a co-worker. Summer passed. Then fall. Then another winter. This one they were ready for. And somewhere in the midst of all that work and struggle and learning, something shifted between Eliza and Caleb. The respect became affection. The partnership became something deeper. Love, maybe. Or something close enough to call it that. One night, lying in bed after a particularly long day, Caleb said, I never thought I'd have this. Have what? Someone who sees me. Not the ranch, not the money, just me. Eliza turned to face him. I see you. I know. That's why this works. He touched her face. I love you. I don't think I've said that yet. She hadn't expected it. They'd been careful with words like that, careful not to promise what they couldn't deliver. But hearing it now, she realized it was true. For both of them. I love you too, she said. It wasn't perfect. They still fought, still struggled. The ranch was hard and the life was harder, but they faced it together, and that made all the difference. 5 years changed everything. Eliza stood on the same rise where Caleb had proposed, looking out at the valley, but now she saw it differently. Not as something vast and foreign, but as home. Every pasture, every building, every fence line, she knew them all, had fought for them, built them. The ranch had doubled in size. They'd bought out 3 neighboring properties, expanded the cattle operation, brought in new breeds. The railroad deal Caleb had negotiated ran right through their land now, bringing profit every month. But more than that, the ranch had become something her mother-in-law had dreamed of. A real home, not just a business. Eliza had planted gardens, real ones, not just herbs. Flowers grew around the main house now. She'd insisted on proper quarters for the ranch hands, clean, warm buildings instead of the drafty shacks they'd had. She'd started a school for the workers' children, hiring a teacher from Denver. Mrs. Shaw claimed it was soft, unnecessary. But the workers stayed. Loyalty wasn't bought with wages alone. You're up early. Eliza turned to see Caleb riding up, their son perched in front of him on the saddle. Thomas, named for her father, was 3, all dark hair and serious eyes like his father. Couldn't sleep, she said. Thinking about tomorrow? Tomorrow was the community meeting, the one where they'd announced the expansion plans, the one where Marcus would make his move, because Marcus was back. He'd returned to Copper Valley 6 months ago, tail between his legs, claiming he wanted to reconcile. Victoria had left him, run off with some banker from Denver, taking half his money. He was broke, humiliated, desperate. Edmund had wanted to help him. Blood was blood, he'd said. Caleb had been skeptical. But he'd agreed to let Marcus work on the ranch again, prove himself. It had been a mistake. Eliza had known it from the start. She'd seen the resentment in Marcus's eyes, the way he watched Caleb, the way he calculated. And now word had reached them. Marcus was planning something, trying to convince the other ranchers that Caleb's expansion was reckless, that he was going to bankrupt the ranch, that someone more conservative, someone like Marcus, should take over. He's going to make a play for control, Eliza said. At the meeting, in front of everyone. Let him try. Caleb dismounted, set Thomas down. The boy immediately ran to Eliza, wrapping himself around her legs. Mama, Papa let me steer the horse. Did he now? You're very brave. Like you, Mama. Her heart squeezed. She picked him up, kissed his forehead. Go find Mrs. Shaw. I bet she has breakfast ready. Thomas ran off toward the house, all energy and noise. Caleb watched him go with a slight smile. Then his face went serious again. I should have listened to you, he said, about Marcus. You knew. We both wanted to believe people could change. Some people can't or won't. He looked at her. Tomorrow's going to get ugly. Marcus is going to say things about you, about us, about how a woman from nowhere has too much influence, how I've gone soft. Will people believe him? Some might. The old guard who never liked that I married you, who think women should keep house and stay quiet. Eliza had dealt with those men for 5 years now. The ones who smiled to her face and undermined her behind her back, who questioned every decision she made, who saw her background as permanent stain. What do we do? She asked. We fight. We show them the numbers, the profits, the expansion. We prove Marcus wrong. He paused. But Eliza, you need to be ready. He's going to attack you personally. Try to make you look incompetent, unfit. I've handled worse, not in front of the whole community, not with everything we've built on the line. She understood what he wasn't saying. This wasn't just about business. This was about whether they'd be allowed to keep building the life they wanted, whether the rules would bend or break them. That night, Eliza couldn't sleep. She lay beside Caleb, listening to him breathe, thinking about tomorrow. 5 years ago, she'd been nobody. Now she was somebody. And people who climbed from nothing to something always had farther to fall. The meeting was held in the town hall. Every rancher, every business owner, every person with influence packed the room. Eliza sat beside Caleb in the front, acutely aware of eyes on her, judging, weighing. Marcus stood at the podium, looking earnest, concerned. He'd always been good at performing. Thank you all for coming, he began. I know my brother has big plans for expansion, and I want to support him. Family's important to me. The lie was so smooth, Eliza almost believed it. But I have concerns, serious concerns. This expansion requires significant borrowing, risk, and I'm not sure the ranch can support it. Caleb stood. The numbers are sound. I've brought the projections. Numbers can say anything you want them to say, Marcus interrupted, especially when they're being managed by someone with no formal training in finance. He was looking at Eliza. Mrs. Rourke has done admirable work around the house, Marcus continued, voice dripping false sympathy. But running a cattle operation worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? That requires expertise, experience, not just good intentions. Murmurs from the crowd, some agreeing, some uncertain. Eliza felt heat rise in her face, but she kept her expression neutral, calm. Caleb's jaw was tight. Eliza has been managing the ranch finances for 3 years, successfully. Our profits have increased every year. Under your guidance, I'm sure. But what happens when you're not there? What happens if something happens to you and she's left in charge? Marcus shook his head. I'm not saying this to be cruel. I'm saying it because I care about this ranch, about our family legacy. And I don't think it's wise to risk everything on sentiment. The word hung in the air, sentiment, as in Caleb married her out of sentiment, kept her involved out of sentiment, was risking the ranch out of sentiment. I think we need new leadership, Marcus said. Someone who understands the business, who has the respect of the community. I'm proposing a vote to make me managing partner. Caleb can remain owner, of course, but day-to-day operations should be handled by someone qualified. The room erupted, people shouting, some supporting Marcus, some defending Caleb. Eliza sat very still. This was it, the moment Marcus had been building to. Caleb was on his feet, arguing, but Eliza barely heard him. She was thinking. Marcus had made a mistake, one mistake. He'd assumed she'd stay quiet, play the dutiful wife, let the men argue while she sat pretty. He didn't know her at all. Eliza stood. The room gradually quieted, curious to see what she'd do. Mr. Rourke is right about one thing, she said clearly. I have no formal training. I never went to fancy schools. I can't quote economic theories or discuss market trends using the proper terminology. Marcus smiled, thought he'd won. But I can read a ledger. I can track expenses and income. I can negotiate with suppliers and manage a budget. And I've been doing it successfully for 3 years. She pulled papers from her bag. These are the actual numbers, not projections, not theories, what we've made, what we've spent, what we've saved. She handed the papers to the man closest to her. He read, eyes widening, passed them on. You'll see our profits have increased 40% since I took over the books. Expenses are down 15%. We've paid off 2 major loans ahead of schedule, and the expansion Mr. Marcus Rourke is so concerned about, it's funded entirely through our own capital, no borrowing required. More murmurs, but different now. Surprised, impressed. Mr. Marcus Rourke says I'm not qualified, and by his standards, he's right. I didn't inherit my position. I didn't marry into it expecting to just spend money and look decorative. She looked directly at Marcus. I earned it, every single day, through work, through proving myself, through doing the job better than it was being done before. Numbers can be manipulated, Marcus started. Then bring in an independent auditor. Check every figure. I'll open every book, every account. Let them verify. Eliza's voice was steel now. But what you can't manipulate is results. This ranch is thriving. The workers are happy. The business is growing. And you want to take over why? Because you need a job after your wife left you broke? The room went dead silent. Marcus's face turned purple. How dare you? I dare because it's true. You're not concerned about this ranch. You're concerned about yourself. You had a chance 5 years ago to be part of something good. You chose pride and bitterness instead. Now you want back in, but only on your terms. Only if you're in charge. She turned to address the room. I know some of you don't like that I'm involved in ranch business. Think a woman should know her place. And you know what? 5 years ago, I would have agreed with you. 5 years ago, I thought my place was small, limited, defined by what I couldn't do instead of what I could. Her voice softened. But this ranch taught me different. Caleb taught me different. He saw something in me I didn't see in myself. And he gave me the chance to prove it, not because I was his wife, but because I was capable. She looked at Caleb. He was watching her with something like awe. So vote if you want to. Put Marcus in charge if you think that's best. But know that if you do, you're not just voting against expansion plans. You're voting against the idea that people can be more than what they were born to be. That hard work and honesty matter more than pedigree and connections. That someone from Red Hollow can stand in front of you and prove she belongs. She sat down. The room was absolutely silent. Then Judge Hartley stood. I've known Caleb Rourke for 20 years, known his family even longer. And I'll say this. The ranch has never been better run than it is now. The profits speak for themselves. Mrs. Rourke has proven her worth. And I'll be damned if I support putting Marcus, who ran his own finances into the ground, in charge of anything. Others stood, voicing support. The tide had turned. Marcus tried to rally, to argue, but it was over. Everyone could see it. The vote was called. It wasn't even close. Marcus lost. Badly. He left the meeting without another word, face twisted with rage. Eliza knew they hadn't seen the last of him. Men like Marcus didn't accept defeat gracefully, but for now, they'd won. Outside, in the cool evening air, Caleb pulled Eliza aside. That was incredible, he said. I was terrified. Didn't show. You were calm, strong, everything I knew you were. I couldn't let him win, couldn't let him take what we built. We, Caleb repeated. Not me. We. She understood what he meant. Somewhere along the way, it had stopped being his ranch and become theirs, their work, their life, their future. They went home to find Mrs. Shaw waiting with Thomas and Edmund. The old man was beaming. Heard how the meeting went, Edmund said. Well done, my dear. You made your mother-in-law proud, I think, wherever she is. Thank you, Edmund. That night, after Thomas was asleep and the house was quiet, Eliza and Caleb sat on the porch. The same porch where she'd stood 5 years ago, terrified and desperate, knocking on a stranger's door. Do you ever regret it? Caleb asked. Choosing this life? Every day, Eliza said honestly, and then I wake up and choose it again anyway. That simple? That complicated? She leaned against him. I regret being scared so often. Regret the mistakes I've made. Regret not being better at the things I should be good at. But regret saying yes to you? No. Never that. Even though it's been hard. Especially because it's been hard. Easy things don't mean much, but this? She gestured at the ranch spread out before them. This we fought for. Built with our own hands. That means everything. The years that followed proved her right. The expansion succeeded. The ranch grew. Thomas got a brother, then a sister. The house filled with life and noise and chaos. Marcus tried twice more to cause trouble. Once spreading rumors about financial mismanagement, once trying to convince Edmund to change his will. Both times he failed. Both times he slunk away a little more bitter. Eventually he stopped trying, moved away for good. They heard he died in St. Louis, alone and broke. Eliza felt pity, but not much. Victoria sent a letter once, years later, apologizing. saying she'd been wrong, asking if they could reconcile. Eliza wrote back, "You taught me that some people will never see past where you came from. Thank you for that lesson. But no, we can't reconcile. Some bridges burn for a reason." She never heard from Victoria again. Mrs. Shaw retired eventually, though she stayed on the ranch in a small cottage Eliza had built for her. She helped with the children, offered advice, became more grandmother than housekeeper. "I was wrong about you," she admitted one day. "When you first showed up, I thought you'd last a week. Maybe 2 if you were stubborn." "What changed your mind?" "You didn't quit. Everyone expected you to fail. You didn't. That's rarer than people think." Sarah got married to one of the ranch hands, Tom, the one who'd lost his fingers in the storm. They had 4 children and a little house on the property. Her oldest daughter became Thomas's best friend. Edmund died peacefully in his sleep at 83. The whole valley came to his funeral. In his will, he left a letter for Eliza. It said simply, "You proved me right. Thank you for loving my son." She cried reading it. The ranch continued to grow. They brought in new innovations, better breeding programs, modern equipment. By the time Thomas was 15, it was the largest, most successful operation in 3 territories. But more important than size or profit, it was known as a good place to work. Fair, honest, the kind of place where people stayed for decades, where families grew up together. That was Eliza's doing. Caleb handled the business. But Eliza created the community. Sometimes, sitting in the study late at night, going over books, she'd remember that desperate girl who'd walked 8 miles in the dark, who'd knocked on a stranger's door with nothing to offer but honesty and determination. She'd come so far, become so much more than she'd imagined possible. One evening, 30 years after that first knock, Eliza and Caleb sat on the porch watching the sun set. They were older now. Caleb's hair was white. Eliza's hands were marked with decades of work. But they still sat together every evening when they could, still talked, still chose each other. "I was thinking about that first day," Caleb said. "When you showed up at the door." "I think about it too, sometimes. I almost sent you away. Did you know that? When Mrs. Shaw told me some girl was asking about the advertisement, I almost told her to just get rid of you." "What stopped you?" "Curiosity, maybe, or fate, or just pure stubbornness. I was tired of my family telling me what to do." He smiled. "Best decision I ever made. Not sending you away. Best decision I ever made was knocking on that door. Even though you were terrified? Especially because I was terrified. Courage doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway." Thomas appeared from the house, his own wife beside him, their children trailing behind. He was running the ranch now. Had been for 5 years. Doing a good job of it, too. "Mother, Father," he said, "we're heading home. Just wanted to say goodnight." Eliza hugged her grandchildren, watched them pile into the wagon. 3 generations now. All because she'd been brave enough to ask for a chance. After they left, Caleb took her hand. "No regrets?" he asked. "None that matter." And it was true. There had been hard times, mistakes, losses, things she wished she'd done differently. But when she looked at everything they'd built, not just the ranch, but the family, the community, the life, she couldn't regret the path that led here. She'd been a girl from nowhere. Nothing. No prospects, no future, no hope. And she'd become somebody. Not because of who she married, though that helped, but because she'd worked for it, fought for it, proven that where you came from mattered less than where you were willing to go. The frontier had tried to break her. The family had tried to break her. Society had tried to break her. She'd refused to break. That was the lesson, she thought. The thing she hoped her grandchildren would understand. Life would always try to tell you what you couldn't do, who you couldn't be, where you didn't belong. And you could listen to those voices, play it safe, accept limitations. Or you could knock on the door anyway, stand up for yourself, do the work, prove everyone wrong. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever was. But it would be worth it. As the sun set over the valley, painting everything gold, Eliza thought about that terrified girl one more time, and she whispered, soft enough that only the wind could hear, "We did it. We actually did it." And somewhere in the growing darkness, she felt that girl smile back. They had conquered the frontier, not with wealth or power or force, but with courage, with choice, with a love strong enough to weather any storm. And in the end, that was the only thing that mattered. The only thing that ever had.